Hello viewers, welcome to Generations Gist with Joy. Generations Gist with Joy is a show where we feature in-depth discussions, analysis, and overview of trends, lifestyle, and other issues that affect both the older and new generations as we x-ray and showcase how generational transition and individual experiences and relationships have impacted and shaped contemporary human behavior and national development and advancement. Today's conversation promises to be refreshing, educating, and inspiring. Please do relax and enjoy it. I am your host, Joy Onu. But before we continue, please, we shall be going on a short break. Please stay tuned.
The world is no longer a global village. It is a neighborhood. Generations come and go, but the gist they start lingers. The platform that sustains those gists is here. Be a part of the conversation on Generations Gist with Joy. From policymakers to politicians, medical personnel to traders, labor leaders to students, the young and the old. It's Generations Gist with Joy on this channel every Saturday at 9 a.m. with a repeat broadcast on Sunday at 9 a.m.
It's your generation, it's my generation, it's our generation.
Come, let's tag along on Generations Gist with Joy. Please join us.
The topic for today's discussion is the girl child, the challenges and their rights. I am sure we all know what a girl child is, but for the purpose of the show, let me remind us that the girl child is a biological human female offspring from birth to 18 years. They believe that the birth of girl children as less important in some culture, families, and society is rooted in various cultural, societal, and economic factors through different generations. According to researchers, girl children in Nigeria and other sub-Saharan Africa are still denied their rights, thereby restricting their choices and limiting their future prospects. But over time, girls have proven themselves in many fields and sectors to be as hardworking and dedicated as their male counterparts. Despite their courage in the face of numerous crises and challenges, they are very hopeful for the future. But facing the future for them requires trusted allies to listen and respond to their needs with the right support, resources, and opportunities that will accelerate progress towards a future every girl can fulfill their potential. Hence, various international and local agencies, groups, and NGOs are beginning to raise alarm by challenging and speaking out against girl-child gender inequality and the harmful stereotype that could lead to their permanent scar of gender discrimination in our society. And in the studio with me to help enlighten us and do justice to this very important topic are a team of National Coalition of Civil Society to End Child Marriage in Nigeria. And to my far right is Mercy Okeke. Mercy Okeke, you're welcome on this show. And how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Mercy Okeke is a gender officer for Africa Girls Not Brides, the global partnership to end child marriage. You're welcome on the show once again. And to my left here, the first left in red, is Miss Omonwa Joy. Okay, Ambassador for Child and Youth Protection Foundation. You are welcome, Joy Omonwa. Okay, and my immediate left here is Miss Oga Joy, Joy, you are welcome.
Thank you very
Good
much.
to have Joyce in the studio with me. She is the ambassador and advocate for the girl child freedom at the grassroots. Joy, you're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you all for coming, and hope you are doing good.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah, then today I know that this month they celebrate the International Day of the Girl Child all over the world.
Yes,
Okay, and the theme for this year is Girls' Vision for the Future. In your own view, I'm talking to Okeke now.
Yes.
Okay, in your view, what will you say are the girl child's vision for the future?
Basically, the girl child, like every other person, wants to achieve their highest potential, want to fulfill their desires, whether it's the desire to go to school, the desire to be in production, the desire to, you know, discover things. They just want to live life to the fullest, like every other person. So for the future, every girl child desires to live life to the fullest. They also desire to make choices that affect them. And when I say that, it's because we come from, you know, experiences where decisions are made for the girls, whether it is to go to school, what school to go to, what courses to study, and these decisions are not just made in the home front, you know, in different institutions, including educational institutions. And when you see how admission is given, you know, it reflects a certain bias to the girl child, where this institution wants to dictate what the girl should do, what she should study, how she should turn out in life. Meanwhile, the girl wants to make those decisions herself, want to pursue the things that she's interested in. We see girls who are interested in several things. You know, people who are interested in, I've seen, you know, stories of women who want to be truck drivers or who are truck drivers, and that's what they're interested in.
Okay.
So they don't want the society to prescribe to them what interests they should pursue and how they should, you know, live life to the fullest, but they want to make those decisions for themselves. Okay. So I'll say those are two quick examples of the kind of future that we as women, and specifically young girls, aspire to live life to the fullest, make the decisions that concern them.
Okay, Ms. Joy Oga, as a member of this generation, as Gen Z, as we call it right now, what do you think is your own view about the girl child vision for the future?
Okay, I would say the girl child, as she said earlier, the girl child just wants to be part of decision making in things that concern them. We all just want to make choices. We just want to be part of that panel, those people that make the decisions for us. So that's just what we want, basically.
Joy Omonua.
Yeah, like they both said, we just want to acquire skills for us to be able to pursue our dreams, achieve our potentials, want people to see our capabilities without like condemning them for any reason.
Okay. What are the responsibilities of a girl child from a girl of your generation?
Okay, so our responsibilities, okay, as an adolescent girl, my responsibility is to first of all make my parents proud. That is very, very important. And then our responsibility is to also make our society proud of us and not put them to shame. So I think that's basically what I would say.
Just to say holistically, I think that girls also have the responsibility of contributing to the development of their society. So they are part of the society physically. So they should be part of the society in other ways, contributing to community decisions, contributing to community development, and basically I would say being role models to other girls, whether they are girls, you know, who have the same opportunities as they do, or there are girls who do not have the same opportunities as they have. For instance, the two Joys that we have here have the opportunity to be here to talk about what they do, to talk about, you know, the opportunities that girls have and the things that girls are able to do if given the right opportunities. But there are other girls out there who do not have the privilege or the opportunity rather to be here. So for me, they are role models to other girls who are not here. When these girls watch them, they can aspire to be here, maybe in this TV station or in another TV station, or maybe not even in the TV station. They can aspire to be within their different community groups, speaking up about the issues of girls, speaking up about, you know, some of the opportunities that girls are entitled to, their rights, and the fact that girls should live full productive lives. So I think that that's also one of the things that girls can do within their community groups, in the society, and within and amongst their peers.
Okay, I will ask you again. Then, having said something about the responsibilities of a girl child, apart from the caregiving aspect of it, of a girl child, you know, what are the basic rights of these girl children? That we now hear about. What are the basic rights?
Okay, I'll start by saying that, talking about caregiving, I'm glad you mentioned caregiving. And in the field that we work in, we realize that a lot of girls and women are dedicating a lot of time to unpaid care. We call it unpaid care, meaning that they're doing a lot of work that is not recognized, and that is caregiving. So whether it's care for younger ones, care for the family, you know, care for sick family members. We all know, we live in Nigeria, so we know that in this part of the world, when someone is sick, it is the woman's responsibility. When my child is sick, it is first my duty to sit at home with my child, to take my child to the hospital, to ensure that she takes her drugs and all of those things. So it's what we call unpaid care, and we have discovered that because there's a lot of unpaid care responsibility for women and girls, it's limiting them from pursuing other opportunities that they can pursue. So I would not want to say that it is the responsibility of the girls for caregiving, because of the burden of caregiving when it is not paid for. And then that will now take me on to the question that you have asked, which is some of the rights of the girl. I would say there's the right to protection. Nigeria has the Child Protection Act and the Child Protection Law at the state level, which shows that it is a responsibility of the government, the family, parents, to protect the child from harm. It can be sexual violence, it can be gender-based violence, and there are different forms. I could go into, you know, talking about on and on about emotional violence, you know, negligence, sexual assault, sexual harassment. But it is the responsibility of the society to protect the girl. There's the right to education. Children, young girls, should be allowed to go to school, because that is their opportunity to pursue their desires and their future, like you have said. There's the right to food, and you know, I can go on and on, but I'll let them talk about it.
Joy Oga.
Okay. First off, there's a right to life.
Okay.
Second, there's a right to freedom from inhuman treatments. Like, a lot of girls are being treated inhumanly. Those girls who don't have the opportunity, whose parents don't have the opportunity to train them in school, send them off to their uncles and aunties where they stay with them, and then they're being treated poorly and badly. A number of cases that we've heard about, and the NAT and human rights station have been made to deal with for this past few years, has been cases of inhuman treatment towards the female children, young female children, and it has been really, really alarming and very bad. Then we have right to freedom of association.
Okay.
Yes, we have the right to choose who we want to be friends with. We have right to privacy. As a female child, even with my parents, I have the right to close my door and stay on my own. Yes, that's privacy. I have the right to privacy, and I'll just say that.
Okay, do you have any view about that?
Yeah, we as children, we have the right to basic education. At least we should be able to get that primary and junior secondary education. It's really important for us. And we see that there are a lot of out of school children, and out of those children, 60% are girls. So we really need to address that issue concerning girls not going to school and getting this basic education.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Talking about rights again, you know, there are a lot of rights of children that are actually abused by children themselves, that goes into drugs and other vices. What would you say about that? Like, they will always tell you, is my right, I want to do certain things, I want to dress just the way I want, I want to just behave anyhow I want, especially this generation. You know, I am not saying that the way they dress, most of them, is not good. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there are a lot of vices that is going on right now, and you can testify to that. A lot we don't want to mention on this show. What do you say to that, violating those rights they are actually clamoring for?
So what I have to say is that we know that the family is the smallest unit of the society. And so I think that the family has quite a few things to do in shaping how children turn out, whether they turn out in their childhood or they turn out in their adulthood. The first thing I want to say is that there's something we call positive parenting. And part of positive parenting is getting children to be part of decision making. And to be honest, sometimes when you engage with people who have gone into those vices, there are underlying factors. There are different things that lead to that. And some of those things could either be maybe abuse from the family, and they're trying to run away from that reality of abuse, and so they begin to get into those vices. So I'll rephrase that, not just abuse from the family, but I'll say abuse, you know, generally, whether it is sexual abuse or it is emotional or whatever it is. So that's how it begins to stem up. So it now goes back to the, you know, to the fact that we as a society have the responsibility to protect the children, because when we begin to check the underlying factors, there are different things causing it. I've talked about abuse. I've talked about the other thing could be negligence, where, as you know, community people, as a family, we're not interested in the welfare of these children, and so they begin to roam the streets and, you know, begin to pick up those vices from, you know, older people, or, you know, as they move along. So those are the two key things for me. First, positive parenting, and then protection, which is our responsibility towards children. And not just towards children. To be honest, the society is responsible for the protection of everyone in the society. Everyone should feel safe. I should feel safe as a Nigerian. You should feel safe when you walk on the streets, you know, when you go to different institutions, you should feel safe. So the society is responsible for, you know, providing that safety where children can grow and thrive. And once that is missing, then you begin to see all of these vices coming up. So it doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It exists because there are several underlying things that perpetrate it.
What is that thing that actually caused this violation of rights, being given this freedom to be happy and all those things?
Okay, you know? I think parents these days, while giving their children this freedom and everything, they tend to take their childhood away from them. They want their children to get matured fast, start taking up responsibilities. Sometimes parents can say, okay, this thing, you can get it yourself. Why can't you get it yourself? Why should I be the one getting this for you? Or sometimes they tend to play with their mates, but the parents will be like, you have gone past this. These are things you should not do. You are supposed to be watching TV. You're not supposed to be doing this. You're not supposed to be doing that. And that is like gradually taking their childhood away from them. And children who did not experience this childhood, they grow up to want to become in charge. They've already had that foundation of like, I've been responsible. My parents want me to be responsible. But instead of it to become a good thing, they become vices. Those are people you see that abuse other women, they rape people and some things like that. I feel parents that want to take away their childhood from them is another factor and a problem in this society today.
Wow. Oga.
Most children, most adolescent girls in this generation just feel like they just want to explore. So most of them just violate this right that they have been given and then start misbehaving because they feel, okay, I'm a Gen Z baddie, I want to explore, I want to live life to the fullest. Yes. And then and that's that's contrary to what we're saying about girls expressing living life to the fullest. What we mean is becoming that the responsible woman that will be a role model to the girls in the society.
Okay.
But what they do is violate those rights and misbehave, so to say. And then peer pressure, I would say that too. So when other girls are living life to the fullest, those other girls would want to violate, they also want to. Peer pressure is very, at this age, a lot of girls are influenced by their friends, by their peers. You do things you don't want to do, and when you grow up and you're like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done this, but because of your friend, because your friend was doing it, you want to do it. So it's peer pressure.
Okay, yeah, peer pressure, that is a lot. And you know, what are the specific challenges these girls are facing now, because they are wired by nature as girl children, in your own center now? Or yeah,
so I don't run a center. The organization that I work with is an organization that basically leads a global partnership to end child marriage. So a partnership of several organizations in Nigeria, in Africa, and in different regions: Asia, the Americas, and then Latin America and the Caribbean.
okay.
And one thing that resonates when you move from one region to the other is discriminatory norms, gendered norms. And what I mean by that is that our societies are very patriarchal. Again, what I mean by that is that we place more value and give more rights to men and boys over women and girls.
Okay.
And so men and boys are seen as more important, they're valued more, they're given more rights, they're given more opportunities than women and girls. I would say that that is the biggest challenge that we're facing, because that challenge is the basis for every other challenge that girls face. For us, one of our biggest one of the things that we're trying to address, or the thing that we're trying to address, as our name implies, Girls Not Brides, is child marriage. We want to end child marriage, and child marriage is caused by that underlying factor that men and boys are more important than women and girls. So they can be given off, you know, without asking their opinions. They can be exchanged. And I say that with sadness, because it's when you hear some stories, there's the issue of the money woman that we've heard about, where girls are given in exchange for their families to take loans. You know, when you go to communities that are affected by humanitarian conflict and people are displaced, people give their daughters off with the hopes of whoever is marrying them protecting them, or maybe in exchange for other things. Sometimes when you hear stories, you know, they're really, I don't want to say them here because they're very sensitive stories.
You can say them.
Things like, you know, giving their daughters in exchange for food, giving daughters in exchange for shelter. People do that, you know, and sending their daughters out to get money to make money for their family. You know, in some places, when parents have a girl child, they feel, oh, I've gotten the child that will bring me money, because they can easily be given off. We've heard stories of girls who are given off in marriage, and the bride price or dowry or whatever is received is used to send the boys to school. So that is the biggest challenge for us, the fact that girls are not valued same as, you know, boys and men. And so their rights continue to be trampled on. Their rights continue to be violated because they are not given the same rights, the same opportunities, the same importance as men and boys. So that's our biggest challenge right now, because it perpetrates other things: gender inequality, unequal access to decision-making spaces, unequal access to services, whether it's health, education, you know, other services that you know we're entitled to in the society. It affects our opportunities to get involved in productive work. You know, like you talked about care earlier. So we're as women and girls, we're sometimes identified as being good for reproductive work. So have the children, stay at home and take care of the children, you know, do all the things that are related to reproduction, but then don't get involved in productive work. So you cannot own a bank account, you cannot get involved, you cannot get a loan, you cannot, you know, you cannot be involved in those high-end economic activities that bring in a lot of money.
Thank you very much.
So
We'll come back to that after this short break.
Okay,
Please stay tuned.
The world is no longer a global village. It is a neighborhood. Generations come and go, but the gist they start lingers. The platform that sustains those gists is here. Be a part of the conversation on Generations Gist with Joy. From policymakers to politicians, medical personnel to traders, labor leaders to students, the young and the old. It's Generations Gist with Joy on this channel every Saturday at 9 a.m. with a repeat broadcast on Sunday at 9 a.m.
It's your generation, it's my generation, it's our generation.
Come, let's tag along on Generations Gist with Joy. Please join us.
You're welcome back. Mercy. Yeah, you were talking about the challenges. One of the challenges as the child marriage issue. So
in continuation of what I was saying, in Nigeria and in this region, so when I say this region, I'll say West and Central Africa, there's a high burden of child marriage. And I'll say specifically for Nigeria because the numbers are quite enormous for Nigeria. For instance, so I'm reading from UNICEF child marriage data. UNICEF, from their publication, says that there are 23.7 women between the ages of 20 and 24 who were married before the age of 18. So basically we have 23.7 million absolute child brides in Nigeria, so people who were married before they clocked the age of 18. And that means that there's a approximately 30% prevalence rate of child marriage. So if this trend continues, it means that 3 in 10 Nigerian girls will likely be married before the age of 18.
I'll come back to that.
Yes.
Will you say the same thing, or maybe some of the experiences you have around your own centers?
Okay, so like you said earlier,
Yeah.
the basis of all this challenges that girls face in the society is men, boys, males being placed over us, being highlighted as the most important or something, and that creates room for early child marriage, gender inequality, gender-based violence, rather, because when they feel they are more important, they are more superior and we are inferior, they tend to violate our rights and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
These gender-based stereotypes have done a lot of damages in the society, because aside the child marriage, we have this child labor, and most of the children that are exploited, that are sent out to other homes to like work for them, are girls. You can have 5 children and you say, okay, this girl go to this family and work for them, and it's child labor because it's affecting their education, it's affecting their mental health, it's affecting them psychologically and physiologically. If it's a case that maybe they are working for them, but they are still having that access to school, they're having access to education, is not affecting them. It would have been a better case. But because they are exploiting them in every way, it's the challenge we're having in our society.
Okay, madam.
Yes, please.
Then talking about these challenges now, there must be a place these things are prevalent. Like we have the issue of child marriage, we have the issue of child labor and the likes. Where are these things prevalent in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you for saying that. So they are prevalent in more traditional societies. They are prevalent in societies that are really cultural and societies where there's limited access to services such as education. And also, still reading from UNICEF data, they're more prevalent amongst the poorest. So according to UNICEF's data, close to 60% of people who are the poorest in the society get married as child brides, as compared to less than 10% of the richest. So you see that the poorer people are, the more likely, or the poorer a girl is or her family is, the more likely she is to be married off early. The other one will be for education. Girls who have no education are very, very likely to be married. In fact, close to 70% of them are likely to be married off as child brides. Girls among girls without education, as compared with to girls with either secondary education or higher, amongst whom less than 20% get married as child brides. The third one I want to talk about when it comes to prevalence is rural and urban communities. So girls who live in rural areas are more likely to get married as child brides, and that's because when you move to rural areas, in many societies there are limited services, especially when it comes to education. Schools are farther, secondary schools for instance are farther from the girls, so when they think about how far they have to walk to go to school, the security on the road, you know that insecurity has become a big issue in Nigeria, you know, the security on the roads and the insecurity, further insecurity of girls living in school. You know, we've had all the cases of kidnaps of girls from school. So when all of those are considered, you know, the girls and their parents either prefer to be married off or prefer to just stay at home, and then it now goes back to the indices around education, where the less education a girl has, the more likely she is to go to be married off. So
now having said this, you said amongst the poor and the rural communities.
Yes.
Does it cut across the country, or there is a place it is more prevalent? You know, there should be a section of the country that maybe, for example, child marriage is more prevalent. There are places that maybe child labor are more prevalent. Will you like to point out these ones?
I would like to point that out, but why I'm not quick to begin to call names of region is because even in the region where it seems holistically like the prevalence is not a lot, when you go amongst these groups that I've talked about, the poorest, those with little education, or those in rural areas, the prevalence is still as high as those in other regions. So that's why I'm not quick to begin to call names of states or names of regions, because these three things cut across all the states and all the regions in Nigeria. You know, it's something that we have seen. So in my role as the gender officer for Girls Not Brides in Africa, it's something that I've seen whether in Nigeria or in Mozambique or Kenya or Uganda or in all the other countries where we work, Niger, Ghana, Liberia, Burkina Faso, is the same set of indices. Little education, the poorest, and those in the rural areas. So those are the three main things that determine how, you know, child marriage plays out, and the indices and data.
Yeah, before I come back to you, I would like to ask the girls, you know, Joy Oga, then what do you think should be done to stop or minimize the discrimination girl child or girl children are facing in Nigeria? You know, they are your own generation. They live in your own generation now, or your age grades and so on. So what do you think should be done to stop this thing against people of your is it Gen Z right now? Yeah.
Those laws governing our rights should be made public, and then violators of those laws, people that perpetrate those laws, should be punished in the open, so that others can learn from it. And then yes, and then women should be put up there.
Okay.
Because when they're put up there, everyone can say, okay, yes, they're equal, the rights are equal, we are all equals, and then yes, we can get equal privileges and opportunities as the male and the boys in our society.
Okay, thank you. Omonu.
Yes, like she said, I think women should be put up there, because I saw that in the parliament we have only about 4.4% of women representing us, speaking for us there. And also I think organizations too can like create awareness for parents, for them to realize and know that, okay, this thing you are doing, it's not supposed to be. And also strengthening the laws and enforcing it too, and making sure that people who perpetrate these laws are put to punish.
Okay. Now,
Yes, please.
yeah, what would you have to say about this also? Because I first of all want to ask the girls before I now come to you, what should be done?
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you very much for the question. And that's one of the things that we're doing. So as Girls Not Brides, one of the things we're doing is supporting organizations, national organizations, to implement some of the ideas that we have identified. So there's evidence on what works to end child marriage, and so we're supporting these organizations to implement these evidences in the countries where they work, or in the states where they work, in the case of Nigeria. But a few things that I want to talk about is the fact that we need to intentionally address inequality, gender inequality in the society. We need to begin to promote positive norms and address discriminatory and negative norms. It can be maybe things like female genital mutilation. These are some of the harmful norms that we need to step down and promote the positive norms, so that the positive norms are out there. And you know, earlier we're talking about peer pressure. Peer pressure also affects adults. So when I as a parent am promoting positive norms towards my girl child, towards, you know, the girl children around me, other parents who are around me will pick those things that I'm doing and will begin to run with those positive norms. And before you know it, there are more people in the society who are practicing positive norms. So that's the first thing I will say. The second thing will be improved access to services. A key service that affects child marriage is education. And the fact that a lot of parents, when you ask them why their children are not in school, they tell you, oh, the school fees, other hidden fees for government schools, they pay for uniform, for PTA, for this, for that, and that limits access to education for children, and specifically for girls. So I would say that the government needs to do more to remove those hidden fees, so that when we say free education, it is actually free
education.
Yes.
Okay, now in your experience in the field of advocating for girl children, what do you think should be done to secure a brighter future for the female children from the adverse factors that they are facing right now?
Make education truly free, make education safe, provide toilets in toilets in schools. Like when you go to some schools in rural communities, there's no toilet, and because there's no toilet, the girl can't go to school, because she tells you, oh, when I'm seeing my period, there's no way for me to safely, you know, privately, she talked about privacy, privately change my sanitary pad. And so she doesn't go to school for that week, and before you know it, she misses school more often, and that's how she drops out of school. So we need to ensure that there are services in schools that girls can access safely, you know, in a safe environment, and you know, equally. And then the last thing I want to talk about is all of us, so now I'm looking at the camera because I'm speaking to Nigerians, all of us, men, women, boys, girls, faith leaders, traditional leaders, politicians, duty bearers, we need to come together to begin to speak up for the rights of girls, for the rights of women. We need to ensure that we're making laws and policies that protect women and girls, and gives them the opportunities to live life to the fullest, to contribute to the development of the Nigerian society.
Thank you very much. Then, having said a lot about what government should do, or what should be done, rather, whose responsibility
It's
is it?
all our responsibility.
What about the NGOs or the groups and the rest? So what are their responsibilities?
So the NGOs are doing what they can do. For me, in my experience in this sector, there are a lot of NGOs that are doing a lot in this sector, whether it is advocacy, whether it's even provision of services. When you go to humanitarian sector, where most of the services have failed, health, education, protection, you see that the NGOs are providing education. I don't want to call names because I'm not doing advice for anybody, but NGOs are providing education, they're providing health services, they are providing skills for girls, whether it is traditional skills that we know, or other skills, what we call STEM, science, technology, engineering and mathematics. So whether it's STEM education for girls, right now some NGOs are venturing into data analysis and IT skills for girls. So they are doing a lot. I know that NGOs are doing a lot in Nigeria. From my experience speaking with sister organizations, with the organizations that we work with, and I think that the girls can also tell us, because they are representing other organizations.
I was going there.
So,
I'll say on a scale of 1 to 10, for example, they reach to these vulnerable children. How much of it? On a scale of 1 to 10.
Okay, I would say 8. Because I can't testify that it can really or fully reach out to those poor children. So what we do here at the grassroots, hence our name, we are essentially devoted to reaching out to those girls at the grassroots. We go out to the poorest of the poor, let me put it that way, to the most poorest societies, where we know that those girls cannot afford basic needs, where they cannot afford sanitary pads, where they cannot afford education, where not even quality education, not education at all. Most of those girls can't afford them. So that's where we reach out to, that's where we go, and those are the girls we help bring out through skill acquisition programs, because most of those girls are actually 18-year-olds, and most of them still actually say, okay, I don't really want to go to school, and they are put through they're put in skill acquisition programs where most of them learn how to make shoes. I can testify to that. Like you said, IT skill acquisition programs, like during the summer, the organizations, a lot, including mine, pay tutors, experienced tutors to come teach them. They'll bring their systems and then make sure that all the equipment, everything they would need for that skill acquisition program is provided, and they learn tailoring, hairdressing, and a lot more. So that's what I can say.
Okay, Omonu, what's your view about this?
For now is 6.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So NGOs and organizations, they impact skills, they impact knowledge on children, girls, for them to be able to, get to their dreams, get to their potentials, or believe in themselves. They empower them, they create awareness, they often help sending children to school, and those they could not help to send to school, they empower them with other skills. But there are some places in Nigeria that I can say that no NGO has reached those places.
Okay, so
yes, so until everywhere in Nigeria has been reached, then we can say yes, we've reached a good point,
a milestone. Okay, now, like I've asked you about whose responsibility. Now, for those NGOs and groups that are advocating for the betterment of this child standard of living and so on, I don't know, how do you actually reach them? How do you reach them? Like, you cannot be going from home to home. How do you gather these groups of children that you want to help?
I'll start by saying, first of all, with your question around the scale, NGOs are largely dependent on funding. external funding, whether it's from international organizations or bilateral organizations or even philanthropic organizations. So they are largely dependent on that, and as long as they don't have those funding coming in, they basically are limited in what they can do.
Okay.
Because of the dependence on external funding. So there's a lot more that needs to be done. We're hoping that funding will increase for NGOs, especially national NGOs, so that they can do more work. Around the strategies, how they reach out to girls. So most of these organizations are based in communities. So they live within the communities that they work. And so they have access to girls, they have access to communities, to families that they work with. The other thing that they will do is that within a community, they usually conduct an assessment to identify those that are most vulnerable. There are different things that make girls vulnerable, including disability, including poverty, social status, different things that make them more vulnerable. So for organizations, when they want to identify the girls that they work with, they carry out assessment that helps them identify who is more in need. And you know that NGOs they have different projects that they implement, and these different projects are aligned to different things. So for each of those things, they will definitely conduct the needs assessment, know who is vulnerable, because one person can be vulnerable in one area but not in another area. And so it helps them target the girls and their families with the different interventions and project implementations that they have.
Okay. Well, for the benefit of the hindsight, which state or how many states would you say that your group right now, your own group, I'm not talking about other NGOs, you have actually really reached?
So I can't give a number of states because the National Coalition of Civil Societies to End Child Marriage in Nigeria is located across the country.
Okay.
It's made up of approximately 50 organizations, 50 active organizations, and they are located in different places. I could give examples, but those examples are not exhaustive, so that's not all the states that we work in.
Please.
So we have a national secretariat here in Abuja, but then we have organizations that work in Ondo, that work in Enugu, in Lagos, in Ogun State, that work in Bauchi, that work in Plateau State. We have some in Kwara State. We have some partners who work in Borno. We have some partners who work in Kano, in Kaduna. So they are spread across Nigeria, and I won't want to say there are a specific number of states that we work in, because they work in all across the country.
And you are satisfied by what they are doing there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
More can be done, which
Okay.
is why, as Girls Not Brides, one of the things that we do is that we continue to approach funders to say there's more work that needs to be done, and you have the resources, so give us the resources to route to national organizations that can do the work. As Girls Not Brides, we're committing to doing several things with our partners, which is the National Coalition here in Nigeria, and one of it is the State of the Nigerian Girls Summit that's happening is happening on the 24th and 25th of October, where we're bringing girls together to talk about the issues that they're facing and to present these issues to those in whose place it is to make the changes that we desire, so those who are in decision-making positions in Nigeria. So those are part of the things that we do, but more needs to be done. We recognize that there's a high burden of child marriage across this region, and when I say this region, I mean Africa, because I'm a regional staff, so I know these things. And so we continue to approach different funders to say, bring the resources and let's invest in national organizations that have the reach to girls and to their families and can address the issues.
Yeah. You guys are a coalition of civil society,
Yes,
to end child marriage in Nigeria. Now I want to ask you people individually now, what are the unique steps taken by NGOs, especially your own now, in creating awareness in safeguarding, educating and supporting the girl children achieve their full potential, especially in core villages or remote areas?
So one of the things that we're doing, I don't know whether to call it a unique step, but one of the things that we're doing is that we continue to create awareness around this issue, because sometimes people do things and they don't know that it is a violation of the rights of the girl. The other thing that happens is that some communities are not aware of some of the laws that we have at national and state levels, and so they continue to violate it. So part of the things that we're doing is bringing the awareness to these rural communities, but then building what we call allies. And allies are like friends that can help us, that can collaborate with us to continue to address child marriage. So allies among traditional leaders, that's one of the big things that we're doing this year, which is getting traditional institutions on board to say, we want you in your communities, begin to speak about these things and enact laws. You know how traditional we are in Nigeria and how much we respect the traditional institutions. So we want to collaborate with them to enact laws that will affect their communities and the people who value them, and do that one traditional institution at a time, and by that go from one community to the other. The other thing that we were looking forward to do, which I think is innovative, is to begin to identify young people like the two Joys that we have in the studio with us today, and to say, what ideas do you have? What are the innovative ideas that you have on addressing child marriage or child labor or discriminatory practices? Let's sit in a room, let's talk about this. And then when we talk about this, we ask, how can we support this thing that you want to do? Because they are the ones there. They are the ones who have friends who are giving off in marriage. They're the ones who have friends who are not going to school. So what do they think can be done to address those issues that their friends are going through? And then we come in with the resources. When I say resources, it can either be finances or it can be technical capacities to support them to implement those innovative ideas that they have and continue to reach one girl at a time. So those are the two things that I would say are kind of innovative for me and with our partners.
Your organization.
Yes.
She has basically said almost everything, but I'll just say that yes, that issue of bringing the girls, yes, those issues are that aspect is very important. In my organization, Girl Child at Freedom at the Grassroots, although we're centered at the grassroots, our organization is based there. We bring those girls because we don't know their minds, we don't know what they go through. Even if we have an overview, say, okay, this is what they go through, it's a lot more than we think. There's more to it. So we bring them to hear from them and know what they face and know what they go through, and we try to create this safe space where they can actually pour out their mind and tell us everything that they're going through, and then we know we can help. So all the ways in which we can help, we do help, we render help to them, and that's how we approach them.
Okay, I think in my organization, we basically just give girls the awareness that you are to be educated, and if you can't get that education, you should try and get empowered. Anyhow you want to do it, you can just be empowered for you to know what exactly you are or who exactly you are in the society. That's basically what we do.
Now, what's the involvement of governments in NGOs? Because I understand you guys also get sponsorship, like you rightly said, from the international communities and so on. So what is Nigerian government's involvement in this?
So I'll speak basically about one thing, which is most of the collaboration that we have had has been with the Ministry of Women Affairs. And one key thing that the Ministry of Women Affairs has done in collaboration with other organizations will be that there's an ongoing process to review a national strategy to end child marriage. So that national strategy is basically a document that outlines what the government intends to do to address child marriage and to end child marriage in Nigeria. Now, that document is a guiding document for all of us organizations that are interested in addressing child marriage. So we come with our different views, with our different, resources to contribute to the implementation of the national strategy. So that's a key thing that the government is doing, and one of the things we're advocating for is for the government to not just commit to the strategy, making the strategy available, but also commit resources to fund the strategy with our support and our contributions. But the government should be at the forefront to fund the strategy. And while we continue to advocate for this government commitment, is that NGOs do not have eternal wealth. You know, because it is funding based. Sometimes a funder can fund for 1 year and say they are not funding anymore.
Thank you very much. But briefly, if you can give one advice to families or Nigerians about child labor and child marriage.
The only thing I would say to Nigerians is we all have to come together to be allies and supporters of girls, of their rights, and of their, you know, to give them the opportunities to continue to live productive lives in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Joyce?
Okay, I would just love to say that the job is not just for the NGOs, it's for everybody, the society at large, and so on and so forth. So we, as she said, we all have to come together to see that the goal, which is making the girl child stand out, no more than the boys, not that, stand out, is being achieved. Because when you empower the girl child, you empower the entire nation.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Okay, I want to give credit to the government, to NGOs and bodies that have been in this for a long time, because I think 43% of girls now are now enrolling in school, so that's like a big credit.
Thank you.
And yes, I think we should just continue that.
Thank you so much, Miss Mercy Okeke, Miss Joy Oga, and Miss Joy Omonu. Thanks so much for coming on this show. Well, this is the much you can take on this week's episode of Generations Gist with Joy. But before we go, don't forget to always be a part of this show by following us on all our social media platforms. For inquiries, please send an email to generationsgistwithjoy@gmail.com. Until we come your way same time next week, remember, your generation is your identity. Let's continue to be our brother's keeper and remain a patriotic Nigeria. I am Joy Onu. See you next week.
The world is no longer a global village. It is a neighborhood. Generations come and go, but the gist they start lingers. The platform that sustains those gists is here. Be a part of the conversation on Generations Gist with Joy. From policymakers to politicians, medical personnel to traders, labor leaders to students, the young and the old. It's Generations Gist with Joy on this channel every Saturday at 9 a.m. with a repeat broadcast on Sunday at 9 a.m.
It's your generation, it's my generation, it's our generation.
Come, let's tag along on Generations Gist with Joy. Please join us.